Okay. Okay. Hi guys. Come back again with me, Aditya Pratama, and welcome to VR Training 101 Part 3D Interaction in VR Part 2. Okay, let's get started. My name is Anjara Aditya Pratama, and I am Unity Certified Developer, and I am a lead VR developer at Sinta VR right now, and I am also an Indonesian Virtual Reality Association Research and Development Team. You can contact me on my email at aditya.pratama2910@gmail.com, and you can contact me again and find me at my LinkedIn link below. Sorry, I'm a little bit. Wait, where's my... Here. Okay, guys, if you have some question, please just type in on the chat box, and if my voice is kind of unheard because of too loud or too quiet, please tell me on the chat box, because I'm not quite sure if my voice is heard perfectly on your side. So all right, let's get started. First things, just like usually we begin our workshop, the starting point of our VR development workshop is we need to have a software to work with. It is Unity 2017 or 2018 Visual Studio Community, and it is available within Unity installation and Android Studio and Android SDK as well. And then the next one is we need Java JDK, and then the last one is Google VR. And then the skills that good to have is Unity interface and SEACC. Okay, on this part 2 of VR interaction or 3D interaction, we will continue from our, I think, Monday, Monday agenda, which is the last one that we don't cover, is about raycast and the layering in Unity. And then we will continue about trigger, collider, and rigid body. And then after that, we will create our some of little bit of VR experience. And then the next one, we will talk about our review and then the final question and answer. And the duration of this course is around 110 minutes. So it is not as packed as our last session, and the topics is quite a little bit short. And then because today is our last day, and then for the last day we will create a mini VR experience. All right, let's go into the Unity. Okay, from our last session, we got some scene like this, right? And then if you remember from the last Monday, we already talked about some of 3D interaction, and then we will now talk about the continue of it, which is a raycast. Okay, first one, what is raycast? Raycast is just like you want to point some laser or a ray towards some specified direction. So it's just like you shooting a laser from one point to another point, and you want to know that what kind of object or what is or which one that any 3D objects within your Unity that get contact to your laser. So the main purpose of the raycast in 3D software is to kind of knowing that what kind of 3D or what object that we stumble upon within our raycast. So to create the raycast in Unity, let's have a simple real quick script and name it raycast test, for example. And open this up. And let's remove the void start method because we don't need that for now. And let's make it a little bit cleaner. And there is three parts of the raycast that we want to define of. The first one, we need a ray object. Ray object is just like a laser itself in the Unity or in the 3D software or any 3D software program. And the purpose of ray object is just a laser. From point A to point B, we define that point and we want to know that what kind of object that it's intersect of. And then the next one, we need to create a raycast hit object. And then the raycast hit objects is responsible to pull or to save that kind of information that ray is receiving of. So, for example, if we shoot our ray or our laser and it's detecting or it's intersecting with some, for example, 3D cube, and then the raycast hit objects will store that reference for us to use later on. And then the next one is optional, is the sizes or the length of our laser. So to create our raycast, the first one we want to define is ray. So this one is ray. You can see ray is Unity engine.ray, and let's name it ray. And then the next one that we want to have is raycast hit object, and let's name it hit. And then the last one, or it is an optional, a size of the raycast, and the type or the data type is float, and make it named length. So to create array, first we want to access a physics class within the Unity. So we type on physics dot raycast. So this function have 16 override methods or function. The one that we want to use is this. So the physics raycast want us to give it a ray, and then the next one is raycast hit, and then the last one is the max distance of our ray. So let's just pass ray in. We pass our ray, and then the next one the raycast function want us to give a hit function, a hit object, and then the max distance we just have to give it a length. So this will instruct the Unity casting our from our ray object, and whatever data that it's containing will store to hit object, and then it will shoot the ray within the length size. So before that, we need to define the origin or the starting point of our raycast, and then the direction. So if you call your raycast and then we create it one new ray, you can see we need a vector 3 origin, and then the next one is the vector 3 direction. It means the origin at origin along the house. Out from the vector 3.0, and we want to make it forward, vector 3.forward. This line will create an array that from 0, 0, 0 coordinates to vector 3.forward, which is just a shorthand to vector 0, 0, 1. So if we press it up, and then let's back into our scene. The Unity is compiling, and then for our good sake, let's create a new scene for now, because we don't want to make a clutter from our previous scene. And let's create an object and drag our raycast test to it, and then we can press play. So the first thing is you maybe see or you realize your ray is not showing, because raycast in Unity is just not or cannot be seen. It is just kind of function that kind of shooting the laser, but the laser is invisible and the usage is for detecting something to it. So for the debugging purpose, Unity has already have some function called draw lane and draw ray. And for the this purpose, let's use a draw line, and we can pass the 0 and the center as our ray. So if we save it again and press play, as you can see, from our 0 point, there is a line on it. Maybe if you cannot see more clearly, let's change its color to red by pressing color.red and press play again. And you see there is a line of it. So actually our ray is drawing or emitting the ray from 0, 0, 0, which is, let's create an empty object and make it 0, 0, 0. And as you can see, the ray is emitting from this point to the 1 coordinates. So if we create another game object, let's make it more visual to a cube, for example, and make it 0, 0, 1, and select it smaller. And as you can see, our ray is emitting through the cube. So that is for raycast, and for the usage of raycast, we can just make it like this. So for example, if you see on the physics.raycast, it's written a bool or boolean. So if the ray is hitting something, this method will returning a true. And then if it's not hitting something, it will return false. So the techniques to have our behavior difference between true and false, once again, is if. So if we want to like wrap around our physics in it and make it else, now we knew when our object or our array hits something. So this block will be called or executed when our array is intersecting with some object, and this block will be called when our array is not hitting or is not hitting any object. So with this in mind, we can just call it, and this one debug.log not hitting anything. And this one, maybe we want to kind of give some purpose of this block. And if you remember, we pass our hit object, and this hit objects containing the data that the array is hitting object to. So for example, we can do like this: hit dot transform dot name. So this will return the hitted object names. So before I forgot, the length itself needs to have some value in it. So to have some, or to have that kind of flexibility, we want to make it serialized field, so we can change this value within the editor. So as you can see, our current length is 0. If we play something like this, for example, let's create a cube again and make it 001 and make it a little bit smaller. And we knew that our ray is shooting from this, where is 000? We knew that our ray will shoot the ray from this point to the cube. And if we just kind of set our length to 0, it means our laser is not having a length. So what you get will not hitting anything. But as soon as we change the length to 1 and we press play, you see we have a cube, which is our laser is currently detecting or intersecting itself to a game object called cube. If you don't sure, let's just rename our cube is like dummy object. And as you can see, when we change the name, our ray cast is updated to the current object name, which is dummy object. And this is quite handful within any function that we want to make regarding if it is virtual reality experience or a game, because with raycast we can detecting something and we can do whatever we want. So for example, if our cube is getting in our way, we can destroy the cube. So just like we learned on previous session, we can just destroy our game object, which is the cube. So for example, let's make the cube a little bit far from the ray, because we knew the ray is come to this point. For debugging purpose, let's enable our vector3.forward. Let's enable our line so we can see our ray, the trap. and let's get back in, and when we press play, you can see our ray on the scenes view, and it's call or reporting us it's not hitting anything. But once we move our cube to the laser, poof, the cube is gone. It's because when our physics raycast hitting something, it will destroy anything on it. So yeah, and it is really flexible because we don't define what kind of object that we want to destroy. Any object in laser way will just become destroyed. So for example, let's make it 0. Make it 1. Oops. And as you can see, when we move our sphere or any 3D, it will get destroyed because we command it to do so in this line. And then the laser or the raycast can be used can be used for many others function or functionality. For example, because it is not mandatory to have our ray shooting from the 0 coordinates, so we can shoot from any coordinates to any other coordinates. So you can implement this raycast to shoot it. For example, so if you have a gun, you can just casting from the gun of shooting, right? And that is that. And then the next thing we want to learn about raycast is the layer in Unity. So Unity have a concept called layer, which is it's just a layering of the 3D object or the game objects that we want to separate them to each layer. So the purpose of layer is kind of make our 3D or our game objects to become active to any other layers or not. So for example, we have some water UI, post-processing, and any other the WebEx application is not responding. Test. Hello. Okay. I'm sorry, guys, for the some technical problem. What's with left? From what I see, we talk about request, right? And I'm sorry. So yeah, let's just replay or re-talk again about layer. So yeah, where is my chat? Okay, okay. Let's talk about layer in Unity. So in Unity, we have a layer concept, and this is just a layer, just like in maybe you have some skills in Photoshop or any software that using a layer. It is just for differentiate our game objects layer. So for example, we don't want our cube to have some interaction or collided to, for example, our sphere, and we can do that we can do that kind of stuff, and the things or the step that we have to do is just separating our cube and sphere to a different layer, and then it's work for the raycast itself again. So if you want, for example, to don't or to hit something within some layer, we can do just that in the raycast. So for example, in our last session, we have something like this, right? And then for example, we hitting the cube, and when we intersect the ray and the cube is gone. And to done or to have different behavior, for example, we want to just intersecting something that a cube, and we don't want to destroy our sphere, for example, we can just have the layer difference between us or between our game object. So the function of raycast has another parameter implementation, which is the extra parameter is a layer mask, and you can just like make a layer mask variable and just name it mask and make it editable in the Unity editor. So if we come back to our ray, and just name it ray, and you can see the mask is doing nothing. So if we just press play and we move our cube, as you can see, our cube is not intersecting with our laser. It's because our laser is detecting nothing. So if our mask is changed to everything, and when we press it again, the cube will become interactable and it will get destroyed. So For example, let's have some other objects and for example sphere, and reset it to 001 and make it a little bit smaller and make it far, so it's not getting laser. So let's create a layer, and let's create, for example, sphere layer and then the box layer. And then we can just go back to our cube and make it layer box and our scripts layer to sphere. And we want our ray to only hit, for example, box. So it's this ray will only detecting any game objects that have a layer box. So in theory, our ray will only get intersecting or get bumped into our cube and not any other game objects with the layer beside box. So for example, let's see, when we press play, if we come in our box to our laser, it's gone. And when we go and to our sphere, and it's just not interacting because our sphere layer is not box. As soon as we change it to box, it's gone. So the main usage of laser or layer in the raycast is just like that. So we can differentiate our laser target to some laser, to some layer. I'm sorry. Okay. And then the next one that we want to cover in our agenda is let's create a VR experience on it. And let's get back to our scene. And in this scene, we have some kind of forest right now available, and we want to have some maybe mini VR games. And since we have some of assets from asset store, let's see what kind of asset that we have for now. We have animals, we have beer, we have boar, we have deer. Okay. Why don't we create some kind of game or maybe mini game hunting wild animals? Maybe. So for example, our scene is kind of just forest-like, right? It's just like a nature itself, and maybe we have some idea if we have our beer. And let's see that. Where is our, oh, our beer is quite big. Where's our beer? Yeah. Oh yeah, this one. So from previous lesson, we already talked about destroying object within the Unity, and then we also have learned about raycast. We also learn about how we transform the position and then the rotation of the objects. Why don't we just create a shooting game, for example? So we want to shoot some bullets to the bear, for example, and then we store the score if we hit a bear. So yeah, let's do just that. First thing first, when you designing a experience and something like that, you want to kind of having a notes in your for example, just simple text editor, just like Notepad, to kind of listing that requirement or what kind of software or games or experience that you want to create about. So for example, we want to create a shooting game where we can shoot wild bear and get score of that. So this is our experience premise. So let's do just that. First thing, in our experience, we just want to see, or we just want to analyze our requirements out of our wish. So our premise is we want to create a shooting game. So of course, we need to have some kind of player out of it. And then the next one is we have some enemy, which is beer. And then the third one is we want to shoot, and if we want to shoot, we definitely have or need some bullets to work on. And then the last one is we need to have some kind of manager or government. Government is kind of weird, but yeah, we just need to have some system out of it. So for example, we need to have game system as well. So let's divide or specify these four main components out of our game. So the first one is a player. A player is an object. So everything that is an object, we want to create a class out of it. So player, what player? What kind of action that player can do in our game is just a shoot or shooting. So we want to have our player a capability to shoot something. And then what else? Yeah, just shooting for now. And then to shoot, we have to define our bullets, right? And then of course, and its position or spawn point. And then what else? Oh, what else? Okay, just like that for now. And then to shoot, we want to kind of have some step, right? And to shoot, I think we have to press a button or press something, right? Trigger. We want to trigger it, press a button or something. And then after we press a button, we want to spawn our bullets. And then the last thing is shoot our bullets. I think just that. Okay, the next one is a bear or bear. I don't know. And the bear, what is the bear can do for now? Okay, for simplicity, I think the bear purpose of our little game VR experience is just die. It's kind of sad, but it's okay. The bear can dead, yeah. So the bear live for that. That's not good. But yeah, for now, he's just dead. And what step that he need to die? Oh my god. It needs to intersecting or to kind of contacting our bullets. So the first one is get hit by a bullet. And then just did that. And then for example, show die animation disappear, etc. Maybe just like that for our bear, our set bear. And then the next one is our bullets. So our bullets needs to kind of move, right? Because in the real world, bullets is just shooting forward, right? It's just like a projectile. So the bullets is just move. So the bullets is just need just to move, right? And then how to move? First thing, we want to make it move each frame to its forward, and I think it's just like that. I think it's just like that, or maybe by a certain speed. Alright, and then the game system, this is the most complicated, I think, because it's govern our whole VR mini experience. And just for now is we want to store our score, and we want our game system to store our game time. So just like that, and let's maybe create our mini games or our VR mini games out of it. So the first thing that we want to have is player. So let's create rec back in, and let's create a folder called shooting game, for example. And let's create a player scripts. Name it player. Now open this up. Okay. Alright, and then this is our first time to create a player behavior. So, what is it again? A player can shoot, of course. A player can shoot something. So, the first thing we want to have is a method called shoot. We might name it public void shoot, and this one is just shooting a bullet. And then the next one is we want to have some kind of reference of a bullet. So let's create it bullet, for example, and then the bullets is of course a game object, and make it a bullet. And then and its spawn point, of course, and we want to define where our bullets is spawning, right? And then the next one is we want to kind of have some transform reference, and we can call it bullet spawn point. Okay, and then to shoot, the next one is we want to kind of implement our function to shooting an object. So for example, the shoot mechanism is a trigger or a press a button or something, spawn our bullets and shoot our bullets. So we want to have kind of spawn our bullet first, and then the next one we want to do is shoot our bullet. So, but before that, we want to kind of detecting or waiting or listening whether our player is trigger something out. For example, maybe pressing some buttons or touching a screen. So we can just do like that. To listening each frame, we need to have an update function of it. So just like we already talked about, if we want to make kind of input detection, we want to kind of have if to it. So for example, let's just spawn our bullet when our player is pressing left buttons. So just like input.get mouse button down, and we pass it a 0 to make it a left mouse buttons, and we want to if our player pressed a button, shoot the bullet, and we just call our method shoot. Yeah, so number 1 is done, and then the next one is how to spawn our bullets. So our bullets is this one, right? And we want to make it a prefab out of it. So just like our previous session, we have bullets prefab, and to make it accessible, once again serialized field, and I think this one is need a serialized field as well. And we can just do like some instantiation, like instantiate game object, game object, and then our bullets. Let's press save, and then the next one is we want to shoot our bullets. So I think we already did our bullets behavior, but I think it's on the test folder on it. Okay, let's just create new one, because yeah, we want to make it scratch down, right? And let's just make a bullet script. And in the bullet script, we want to kind of, let's remove it all for now, and in our bullets we just have one function which is move, and then to make it move each frame, let's just call it move, or just shoot. We want to kind of shooting the we want to kind of shoot this one up like this, and we want to move each frame to its forward by certain speed. So we can just access our transform and position, and let's just make our transform dot up times time dot delta time and times our speed, and we don't have our speed just yet, and just kind of create it and make it accessible. I think it's just that, and we want to call this script each frame, and you know it is update function, and we can just shoot each frame. And sorry, pause a little bit. Previously, we have a prefab called bullets, right? And then if we see in here, this is our bullets that we create earlier. And this bullet is actually just a form of sphere. So if you see the 3D object sphere, not sphere, I mean capsule. Now if you see, let's just move it a little bit smaller, and as you can, yeah. And as you can see, it is just a sphere laying down, and you just make it longer. You can see our bullet is just like that. And because of that, we want to kind of make our bullets to move it forward. And because of our script or our bullets forward is just like this, and we don't want to have this kind of movement in our bullets. Instead, we want to have it up, so it's kind of shooting like this. So if we kind of do like this, and when we shoot it, we can just see our bullets is shooting just like a normal bullets. So because of that, we pass our transform up instead of our transform forward. So after that, we want to attach our bullets function in it and drag and drop, and let's say our speed to, for example, 10. So if we press again, play, our our bullets is indeed shooting at fast rate. So as you can see, let's just change it to 1. As you can see, our bullets is shooting for now. As you can see, our bullets is moving just like normal bullets. So let's just do just that and make it apply to our prefab bullets and just remove it for now. And we've done our bullets. And then the next one, we want to kind of disable our bullets first because we don't want it to move immediately. So we can just uncheck the buttons of our prefab, and then let's get back to a player, and then we want to spawn our bullets to certain position. So our bullets, we need to get a reference from our bullets, so we can just have a game object, and you can press our bullets name and just like this. And when to shoot our bullet, we can just our bullet.set active true, just like that. The next one that we want to set is we want to make our bullets shoot from our eyes because we are in VR, right? So the next one we want to define is a position of bullet spawn points. So in our player, sorry, a second here. In our player, we need to create, let's just add a player first. Wait, where is our script player? This one. And as you can see, we have two properties, and just drag and drop our bullets from it, and drag and drop our bullets. And then the next one is we want to have a bullet spawn point on it. So as you can see in here, this is our player position, and we want to create our bullets shooting from this kind of point. So let's create a empty game objects and name it bullet spawn point, and we can just move it a little bit forward. 0.1 is okay, and then we can just drag and drop our bullet spawn point, and then we can press back again to our shoot methods, and we can just define our bullet's position in instantiate function. As you can see, this instantiate have or allow us to input the position and the rotation, and we can just do a bullet spawn point and then the quaternion rotation, just like that. Rotation is bullet spawn point dot rotation. Ouch, ouch. Oh, bullet spawn point dot position, and then the bullet spawn point dot rotation. So we will copy our bullet spawn point position to become our bullet's position. I think just that. And oh, the last one is, since our bullet is from sphere and sphere is standing instead of moving just like this, we need to rotate our bullets to make it kind of laying down. So the next one is, we want to our bullets transform dot rotate. We want to rotate it kind of 90 degrees out of it. So vector 3. So pass it 90, and then the last one is 180. The Z point. So I think it's just that, and when we press back, for example, and let's have some test of our bullets. So this one is our bullets, right? When we press play, and then we move our script like this, and when we press click, as you can see, we are shooting bullets for now, because I think it is too fast, and we want to make our bullets a little bit slower, so we can see, maybe define our speed to 5. And yeah, as you can see, our bullets is shooting. All right, so our functionality of shooting is done. This one is also done, and then the next one we want to, the move bullet is done as well, and then the next one is bear, and a bear and the bear functionality is just that. It's sad, but let's just see our bear. Where is our bear? Where is our bear? Yeah, this is our bear. So we want to create a bear class. So let's just create it. Name it bear. And let's get back to our notepad. And we can see the bear is just dead. So we can just delete or remove all of it and just call or make our function called that. So yeah, and its death is get hit by a bullet. So a bear is dying if it gets hit by a bullet. So just like our previous version, to detecting the intersection, we now have two methods, and the first one is raycast, and then the second one is trigger or collider. Since we want to have kind of real bullets movement, so we want to make a bear itself die when a bear is touching or hit by bullets. We will have this function instead of raycast. So we will have a trigger or collider detection input to make our bear die. So just like previous session, we learned about on trigger enter, and this function is just to detecting whether our bear is colliding with other collider. So yeah, for example, on trigger enter, we can just call it dead. It's simple. And then we want to make our bear dead and be dead, show the animation disappear or something. And for this purpose, we can just destroy the bear. And in this case, we have a bear from asset store, right? And then the bear hierarchy or the structure of this bear is the first one is only an empty object containing an animator scenes, and the child is an armature, which is just like a bone, and then the bear itself is on the child components. So to make our, let's drag and drop our script, to make on trigger enter is called, we need or we have to have a collider and a rigid body on it. So since we want to make our entire bear is disappear, we want to destroy its parent instead. So it's just like game object dot transform dot parent dot game object. So we can just destroy our parent game object. So the last thing that we need to define is we want to have some rigid body of our bear. Rigid body. And this rigid body means that this from this and now on, this bear will act or will behave just like physics material within the game. So if we press play, our bear component is just dropping. So we don't want to have that kind of behavior. So we just uncheck use gravity, and that's that. If we press play, we will not affected by gravity again. So the bear is just like that. To create or to test this out, let's just press play. And as you can see, we are shooting object, and let's shoot our bear. Whoosh. It's gone. Amazing. We now can shoot a bear. So if we see this kind of movement, as you can see, this is our player, this is our bear, and when we shoot something, as you can see, our bullet is quite small. But if you can see, if I press it to the bear, it's gone when our bullets is hitting that bear. So yeah, actually this is done. Our function is done, and then this is probably a game for now, and we have the experience to shooting the bear, but we want to make ourselves more interactive, right? Our VR experience is interactive, and since we already see about that, we have already some UI to it. So for example, we have some TV, right, previously, and let's just make our bear disappear for now. And just like your usual experience, your application or your games, they have some kind of UI, right? The UI function is just for playing the games or exiting the games. In VR, it's just like that. but in VR we have the freedom, or the degree of freedom is far more free. So if your kind of typical application is just have a buttons on your screen, it is not a constraint in VR. So for example, we can have a 3D UI or 3D option, and we can interact within our world. So for example, if you see the glance before it, I already set up some UI. So we can have our play UI inside our environment, and it is good because we don't constrain ourselves in the screen. We can literally have any object in our scene to be our UI. So for just like this, for example, we have a game and kind of shoot the bear. The title is shoot the bear, and then yeah, we can have our TV to show our UI. How cool is that? And we want to kind of starting our game by pressing our TV, which is this is our buttons. And to do that, of course, we will have a game manager or a game system on it. So let's create that real quick. Let's type it a game system and do just that. And then let's get back to our notepad, and as you can see in the game system we have game, score, and game time to it. And we will create that kind of the score and game time mechanism within our games. So let's create it real quick. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I'm checking my phone because I have some that. Okay, let's get back. Let's first remove to become more cleaner, so have our class more clean. And the first one, we want to have some kind of score, right? So let's just call it score, and we need to have some time, and time is of course a float because we can have 1.5 seconds left, and of course it's the float type of it. And then the next one is we want to have our UI to kind of moving or can be pressed right on our UI, and we can just create a public void start game, for example. Where's start game? Let's get back to our Unity, and it's kind of hot in here, I'm sorry. A little bit, I wanna take a sip. So we want to kind of start our game when we press a buttons, right? And to do that, we have to have a function called start game within our game system. So let's do just that. And as you can see, let's create a game object called game system, for example. And then we can just drag and drop our game system, and we can just go to our buttons and just drag and drop our game system and choose our start games. Perfect. And we want to kind of remove, right? First one, when we start a game, we want to remove our UI from the environment so we can shoot more bear freely. So to do that, we can just remove our UI first. So let's have some reference from our UI. So let's call it TV and make it serialist. And we can just call it TV.setActive false. Oops. And when we go press it, when we go to the Unity, and when we press play, as you can see, we have our TV, and when we press play, an assigned variable TV, of course, we forget to drag and drop our TV, and we can just drag and drop our TV and press play again. And when we go back and we press play, our TV is gone. Perfect. And then the next one, we want to kind of spawn our bear, right? Because right now we don't have any bear left. So as you can see from now, it's like when we press play, there is no bear around. So we want to spawn that kind of bear from now. So yeah, the first one that we want to have to spawn our bear is kind of position where our bear is, and then of course the next one is our bear itself. So let's just have a bear prefab out of our game systems. And then the next one is we want to make a list of transform, so we can spawn our bear to a certain position, bear spawn points. So get back to the Unity. And as you can see, now we have two two properties to it. The first one is bear prefab, and easily we have bear prefab already set up. We can just drag and drop. And then the next one, we want to have our spawn position or spawn points. So for example, we need to have some spot so our bear can kind of spawning to that position. And then to make it more easily, you can just spawn your bear, make it the again bear position, and we can just create another points, and we can just move, for example, in here and make our bear this child and reset it. And as you can see, the bear will kind of spawn like this when our game is on. So maybe we want to rotate it like this, and yeah, like that. And we can just remove the bear, and we can just add our spawn position to the bear spawn points array. And let's get back to the our script game system and actually spawn our bear or our bears. Yep. And then let's just call it spawn bear. And we can just control dot if you use Visual Studio, and this will just generate method GameSystem.spawnBear. I click just that. This will create a function for you, and we can just want to spawn our bears within the bear spawn position. So we can just use a for loops out of it, just like we learned previously. For integer I equals 0 and I is less than bear spawn points dot length or count, and I plus plus. So this loop will be called as much as our bear spawn points go. So this will spawn bear as much as our bear spawn points. So to do that, we can just use our bullets instantiation. Where is this? Instantiation line, just like this, and let's just create like that. Since we don't want to, or we don't need to have our bear get reference, we can just instantiate it. And then the first one, we need to pass our bear prefabs and then the position out of it, and we can just use bear spawn points I dot position, and then for the rotation we can use it just like bear spawn points index I dot rotation. Yeah, just like that. I think it's just like that. And when we save our games and when we press play, our bear is nowhere, right? But once we press our play, as you can see, we get surrounded by our bears, and it means our script is working. So spawn function is working, and it's spawn our bear based on our position. Perfect. All right, and then the next one that we need to have is kind of score, right? And then to have a score, of course, we have a score right here. And then we can just do like this. Oh, we want to, for example, when we kill a bear, we want to add our score to 1, for example. So let's make a public void add score, and we can just make our score equals score plus 1 fu, and the shorthand for that, if you're too lazy to type, is score plus plus, and this will make our score added 1 points when we call this add score. So where should we call our add score? And of course, we want to call it when we kill a bear, right? So we want to call it from here. So we want to make our function like GameSystem.addScore, right? And it is not there because we don't have the instance of the reference of our game system. And to have it or to have game system reference easily, we can have the static instance out of our game system, and it is called singleton pattern. So let's create a singleton pattern first. For you guys who already know or you don't know about singleton pattern, let's just follow for now. But basically it is just create a static reference out of some class, so other class can call its function more easily. So yeah, let's just make it real quick. Like we want to have a public static our game system, and let's call it instance, and yeah, just like that. And I want to actually make the private version of this game system called underscores instance, and we can just allow other class to have the reference of the instance. So we don't want to other class to kind of set our instance variable to another value. So when we or other class want something or want the game system instance, we can just return our instance. But if we want to check it, if it's null, if instance is equals null, we want to make our instance is equal, we can just search our game system within our scenes, just like that, and just return our instance. All right, I think it's done. And then in the beer, we can just easily call game system.instance.addScore. Perfect. And then to make it more seeable, you can see if you can press play and play. And if you shoot the bear, it should update our score. But when we press game, we don't have our score, right? And we can just see our private parameters or variables. To how to do that is just change our inspector mode in this 3-layer icon in here from normal to debug. And as you can see, we have a score right now, and when we shoot a bear, for example, currently we have a score of 2, right? And when you press click, our scores updated to 3. So yeah, just like that. So now we done the scoring system, right? And then the next one we want to talk is our game time. So we want to have some kind of time limit, right? You don't want to kill the bear unlimitedly or forever. So we want to have a game time on it. And to have a game time, let's say we just serialized our game time, so we can just update our game time within the Unity editor. And then the next one, we want to kind of reducing our game time over time. And how to do that each frame? Of course, we want or we need an update function. So in update function, we updating our game time to become more and more get to 0. So for example, if we have game time 15, we want to reduce that value more and more to become 0. And when the game time is 0, we knew that the time is out. So just like that. So let's just do update the time. So when we update the time, we need to have an if statement called if game time is still more than 0, we want to reduce the game time, right? And then the game time, we can just game time minus equals time dot delta time. This will remove or this will reduce the game times more and more as the frame goes on. And to put it simple, it's just make our game times reduce by 1 each seconds. So just like that. And then the else, of course, we have an else if we already makes our game time 0, of course out of time, and then of course we want to call it a game over, for example. So let's just make game over function out of it and make it like this. And then the game over, for example, we can just for now game debug.log game over, and then we want to kind of set our result, right? So for now, let's say we have a game system. Let's get back to the normal stuff. And we have game time. For example, let's make our game time to 5. And when we play the games, and you can see our game time is reducing, right? And when the time is up, we have a game over call. So, but the time is started, or the time is get updated even before we play the games. So we need to have some kind of flag that define whether our game is already playing or not. So let's have it real quick. Private bool is playing like this, and make this bool is only true when we start our games. After we spawn our bear, we want to start the game and make it displaying equals true, and we want to make our game time get updated when the is playing is true, like this. So when we press play again, you can see our game time is not updating, but as soon as we kind of play the buttons, the game time is start to reduce. Alright, we have some functionality up and running, and actually I have another panel to show the function or the result out of it. So we want to show this kind of UI or interface, and it's just a simple notification or info that what kind of or how much the beer that you already killed, and you can just create the UI, usual UI, and you can just like type you have shot X innocent beer. And of course, to make that happen, we need to have a reference out of our finish panel and the score text panel. So let's create that in our game system. So the first one is we have a TV, right? And then the next one we want to have is private game object, serialized field. First one is start panel, and then the next one is game over panel. And of course the last one is our text, which is text and our score text. And since text is error, we can just use our Unity engine.ui. Save it, and when we start the game, we want to remove our UI out of it, and we want to kind of game over panel to make it false again, so we don't see our game over panels, and we don't see our start panel as well. And when let's copy it, and when the game is over, we want to show the results, right? And we want to make our TV C able or active, and our game over to make our game over to true, our start panel of course to false, and then the next one is the result text or score. What is score text? score text dot text and make it like this as well. So let's copy this one and this one and this one, and we want to replace the X to the our score. How to do that? We can just format our string using string.format and change our X to open brackets 0 and close bracket. This will allow the program to replace that 0 to our score, of course, and save. So let's get back to our games and let's see. Now we have kind of start panel, game over panel, and score text. So we can just drag and drop our score panel and drag and drop our finish game up panel, and then the last one we want to drag and drop our score. So, and then the next one, of course, we want to make the start. So just like this, we need to make our UI show the start panel instead of game over panels. So just make our start panel to true and make our game over panel to false. So no matter when we change our panel, for example, like we forget to disable our TV and we forget to enable it, our application will automatically start it up for us, and then it's got wrong. You have shot the bear because our game over, what is it? Where is it? Finish and start. Make our game over start panel to become true and make our game over become false. That actually it is. Is it correct? I don't know. Let's just see. This is our TV, this is our start panel, this is our finish panel. And we press true. You've shot 0 innocent bear, of course. Let's just make it on. Shot bear. What? Shot the bear. Okay. Let's just press play. You've shot in. Why? Oh, it's game over. I don't know why, because our game time is not running or what? Let's see our script first. Is playing is definitely true when our start game is true. And let's make sure our is playing is false for the first time. And then if we want, oh, okay. This one function will call game time. This line of if statement will update our game time if our game times is more than 0 and is playing is true, and then game over else if, of course, is playing. We want to make it a game over if the is playing is on. So let's just disable it again. For example, display it. And now we have the proper UI. So let's change our game times 15 seconds, for example. And let's shoot some beer by pressing play. And as you can see, our game time is reducing. And when we shoot our bear, poof, poof, poof. Okay. And when the time is up, as you can see, it's calling you've hit or you've shot 3 innocent beer. And that is what we did. So just like that. Alright, that is the VR mini experience that we already created. And if you follow along, you can just file and build and run to make to see by yourself whether the game is running on your phone, but it should be running. And maybe it has some bugs because we don't have replay function out of it. So for example, let's create our game and use shot one and bear, and we press shot again. Of course, as you can see, this have some kind of bug out of it because we don't have restart or shoot again button to have a proper function. But that is that. Maybe you can have your script or your code to be called when you press a shoot again buttons out of it. For now, I just attach my start game again, and it's of course calling it the restart buttons again, because when you press shoot again, our game times is already below than 0, and it's just saying the game over again. So we have some 15 minutes left in our time, and then the agenda of it is the review and then final question and answer. So just like we already learned from last week, I believe, we already talked about UI and its functionality in Unity. What is UI in general, and in Unity we already learned about how to create our UI, how to create a button, for example, a text, an image, and how to interact with them. And then I think on the next session, on last Wednesday, we learn about VR development first in the Unity, and we learn about basic programming. It's like if statement, for loops, and many others scripting syntax and function. And then on the last Friday, I believe we learned about 3D interaction part 1, and that's we learn all about 3D interaction. And then on 2 days we continue that session and learn about raycast, layer, and we create our mini games based of what we've learned from last week. And that is, I think, kind of long run from our first met, and yeah, we create our games for now. The VR mini games shooting bear, and that is some review that what we've already learned so far. And if you have any question, or maybe you want to ask me anything about VR and Unity in general, yeah, we have some time left within our 15 minutes from now. And if you have, maybe you want to talk or you want to consult to me, if you have already created VR experience, or if you have a 3D games right now with your teams and you stuck somewhere, and if you have some question out of it, please feel free to type in the chat box, and I will try my best to answer that question. So yeah, guys, feel free to chat in the text box, and I will reply that as soon as possible. Private float stored game time. And let's have this one to game time. Okay, we have some question from SMK Nurul Jadid. What is all the requirements of our projects that we are gonna make? Oh yeah, if I correct, you have a task to create a projects within the from this lecture or this workshop. And then what is all the requirements of our projects? So let's create notes of it. So we learn all about VR, right? So the requirements of the projects, I think the first one, it should be VR, of course. And the second one is you guys have some functionality or some features or interaction within it. And then I think the third one is about the entrepreneurship, I think, for the SEACC. So if you can, you need to insert some kind of entrepreneurship features. Maybe, just maybe, for example, you want to create VR cinema, for example. If you see, we previously we learned about how we play the VR 360 video. Maybe you want to create some application that allows the user to play the video in the VR, for example, and you create that projects, for example, and then the point number 3 of insert some kind of entrepreneurship features. It's kind of you want to make the profit out of it, for example, just like maybe you have or you develop a kind of in-app purchases, just like within the games, or maybe a user can pay from your project, from using your projects. Maybe you create a VR cinema, and to watch the content of your video or your application, VR application, the user need to pay in some ways. So for example, showing them the advertisement or something else. So yeah, the requirement of the projects is, the first one is, of course, it needs to be VR related, and then the second one is you need to have some interaction that we already learned from our next week. Previous week. Last week we learned all about Unity stuff and that, and then you need to implement that kind of lessons or skills that gives you skills to develop some features that have entrepreneurship features on it, just like that. So I think that's that. If you have more question regarding the requirements of your projects that you're gonna make, maybe I suggest you to ask the Mr. Aji and Mr. Alvan from Simolec, and I think they have more specific requirement that you need to create out of this workshop. Yeah. So for the project requirements details, you can contact yeah, it's like that. So if you have any other question, please feel free to ask to the chat box and I will reply it on. Actually, on our previous or our first meet or our first session, we have some more advanced user. I think some of you guys already learn about Unity and game and VR development, and you ask about more advanced. And I think for this final QA, you can just propose or ask that kind of question for me, and maybe I will or I can give you some advice of it, so you can, maybe it will help you to finish your projects more fast, or yeah, more. So we have 5 minutes left, and yeah, if you have other question, please feel free. Meanwhile, I talk or I create some the restart. So we need to reset the time, of course, because we have 0 times, and we can just game time equals store game time. And when we press game play, when the time left is 0, when we press it again, it goes to 0 again. But our beer, oh, there's no beer. Shoot again, oh, it's the best. The last, okay, the next one is from SMK Emmanuel. Is Milia beta version has been released? Yeah, and for you can, unfortunately, the Milia beta is still on the development, but if the development runs well, the beta will be available soon. Maybe this year. I'm going to remove the remaining beer. I think you don't have any others question, and if that is the case, maybe yeah, we will finish this course. And yeah, I already just finished the restart function again. And yeah, if you don't have any other questions, we can finish our course here. And again, if you have other question, you can just contact me at my email, which is aditya.pratama2910@gmail.com. And if you want to feel more free, you can just hang out with me on my social media, which is in Facebook. You can just search Anjar Aditya Pratama, and then the link in on the description below. And then the yeah, I think that just that I don't play Instagram and Twitter anymore. So yeah, you can just contact me with that three channel, which is Facebook Anjar Aditya Pratama, email, and then the link in on the link is on the presentation below. So thank you guys to have study or sharing with me until today from your last week, and I hope our skills or our knowledge that we already learned about is become benefit for us in the future. So thank you again and see you around. Bye.
Yeah. Thanks, Mas Adit. It's me, Aji.